Are we live? Are we? I think we're live. We are live. Sorry guys, new to this, so wasn't sure. Live. Sorry guys, I'm not. Boa tarde, Steven. Check this out. I got a new feature on the screen. You can see the live stream messages coming through. Steven, como vai? Thank you for being here. I think we're live. Let me fix up my screen. I've been having problems with OBS, which is why it took me a little while to get in to the live stream today. So every time I finish a session with OBS and come back, I have to reinstall it, which is annoying. So it saves my settings for the most part, but I know that my screen is not being displayed, so let me fix that. You just change displays. All right. Marco, Shimerson, hello everybody. Thank you guys very much for joining. Appreciate your time, very, very much. Let me give just another minute or so for more people to join. In the event, we discussed that we're going to be creating AI agents. So basically workflows using different LLM models and prompts. I'm going to show you guys a tool, just full disclaimer of that I've been working on called Less, which is an infrastructure from code tool. The reason for that in this case, besides the promotion of Less, obviously, is that sending messages to different workflows and dealing with fault tolerance, which LLMs and AI is very flaky. It's all about reducing error, at least how ML used to be. Maybe I'm outdated with LLM, but there's a lot of error. The prompts don't always give you what you want, and then when you want to integrate that and call functions based on something that AI is generating, programmatically, we need more guarantees than an LLM is able to give us. So it's very prone to error in terms of how we want things formatted and structured. And so Less is very much fault tolerant. What Less is basically sets up serverless infrastructure on AWS. So we're going to be seeing how we can use SNS topics and SQS to help us deal with the errors with AI. So essentially when we're dealing with dispatching different jobs, we will dispatch them to behind the scenes AWS SQS. So in case it fails, it'll just kind of loop over itself until it resolves itself, and then it can resume and take on next steps. So there are a couple of cool things with that, and bringing SNS into play as well is that you can set up fan-out architecture. And so I actually have Excalidraw set up here, so we can look at it like this is something that we want to process. So in here we would have LLM, right? And then we'll just have a bunch of these. Where's the select guy? All right. So let's say we have a bunch of these that are processing different things and might not be here. You might have something in a different phase of a workflow. And based on the result of this one, you want it to dispatch this one. And then based on the result of this one, it'll also dispatch this one. So you can have something based on this guy, right? Now I want to, based on this condition, I want to either go here or go here, right? And then I might have another node coming out somewhere over here, for example, right? So what's inside of here, and then obviously you have like a trigger, right? So how do you get into all of this? Let me move this over. How do you get into all of this? So you have a trigger. So something is kicking this off. And what triggers can you have? So you can have a cron job, or you can have like a user initiating a post request to some route. Or as we see here, like these are all, essentially like inputs, right? So where the arrow is pointing. So starting off this whole thing from an outside world, it can be like a cron, which I don't know if you want to call that, where the boundary is pretty much internal, but it's dispatching on a schedule. This is coming from the outside world. It can be coming from, anything. So you just need to be able to kind of trigger the first job. And then these arrows, let's not consider this arrow, okay? But these arrows are all essentially messages being passed via a queue. Really topic to queue, right? So SNS topic to an SQS queue, which lets you do the fan out. So I can have one producer. I can have one person producing message. This one I have it here, but let's just say that it's, this guy's going crazy. He's going like this, right? Which is fine. So this will dispatch a single message. So we can publish a single message, and then that message will be picked up by everybody that's subscribed, and then you can make further decisions and decide where you go from there. So we're going to be looking at all of this. I mentioned, let me pull up the event, and we can look at what I promised versus the direction that we're going to be taking things, which is very similar, by the way. All right, so as a demo, we're going to be building an agent that's responsible for posting content to a Twitter account. Again, the job itself can be anything. We'll get up to the point where we're doing like a console log of sending a tweet. Looking into the Twitter API, I figured it was a waste of everybody's time that's watching, just because I have to set up like OAuth and all that stuff. I thought it was kind of a given that because I'm authenticated and I have a key within my own account, that I could post to my own account, but it's not quite the way that it works. So that's a small adaptation that we'll be making. So it'll just be console log, but you guys get it. The agent will generate tweet drafts daily. So we mentioned like how does the whole thing kick off, so it can be a cron job or a post. And then send them to an email list for approval. I already have SendGrid boilerplate set up. Again, where you are intervening within the workflow is up to you, but I want to really focus more so on the building blocks to get there, and then you can kind of build your own workflows. And then I say here, if time permits, we'll also generate branded images for the tweets. So to communicate with the pretty much any LLM, like Google just launched, I forget what the name of it was, like 2 days ago, and it's already available via OpenRouter. So you just pass a string, which is the ID, the identifier for the model that you want to use, and you can send prompts to any model without changing your implementation. So I'll show you guys that's how we're going to be interacting with different LLMs. I'll show you how to format LLM responses as JSON. We'll see that that's just using JSON schema. So if you're using TypeScript, we're going to be doing JavaScript here. But if you have TypeScript set up and you're using something like Zod, then you can set up your types which your functions are using. And then those functions just now in Zod v4, which was released a couple weeks ago or so, very recently, it has support for JSON schema. So you can set up your Zod types and then get a JSON schema from that, send it to, configure OpenRouter to use that schema, and then you almost guarantee that the output will be what the schema said. At least that's the idea. However, in my practical experience, what I found is that it is buggy at times, but it is very helpful. So I'll show you guys how to do that. If you're not doing it that way, what you have, the other option you have is telling the prompt via the prompts on the LLM, this is how I want it structured, which is even more flaky, I think. So it's AI, it's flaky. We got to kind of accept that and find workarounds around that. Going back to topics and queues, the guarantees that queues give you help with that as well. So it's specifically because the formatting, the output is so poor with an LLM. So having something fault tolerant is helpful. And then we're going to be doing all this. So having all of this set up, like we're going to over engineer for sure in a sense. But, if you're setting this up with, DynamoDB and, SNSQs topics and setting up cron jobs and you have like a Redis queue or anything like that, it's just a fucking mess to get something out the door. And things are moving more and more and more quickly. So having this black box, like what's really cool is like you're even like vibe coding what's inside of here, and you really have to just kind of deal with the inputs and outputs and connecting everything, which is usually very difficult. But in this case, using less, we're gonna see how easy it is. So we're looking at like neural networks or AWS step functions or things of that nature, right? Is going to be kind of our building blocks, and we're going to stick LLMs inside of that. What else we have here? Yeah, I think that's essentially it. I'll back out of here. Let me look at how the chat is doing. How is everybody doing? I wish I had a mic going for everybody. Administration, do I know you? Thank you for joining. Boa tarde. All right. So, what do we have here? Let me do my really cool presentation. What is it called? Screencast mode. And then if I do this, yep, there we go. All right. What do we got? So I have a very simple project here. As I mentioned before, I think some of the things were just kind of I wouldn't say out of scope, because it's what I promised, but I think if you want to follow along and get all of this stuff working, it's not really going to matter for you, for your specific workflow. So the things that are more workflow specific, I'll kind of gloss over those and we'll focus on how to put the pieces together. All right. So I have a less API. Don't worry too much about the details. If you're interested in using this, you can check out the docs. I'll point to that in a minute. I'll be going back and forth between them. So if you do decide that this is useful for you, you can check out the docs and get into the weeds. So SendGrid, let me go over the tasks a little more carefully. So first we want to send AI generated tweet drafts to an email list for approval. Okay, so we need a function that can communicate with the LLM. All right, and as I mentioned, we're going to use OpenRouter.ai for that. We need a function to send emails, right? And we can look at the Twilio docs for that. You can be sending this to a database. You can be sending this to your front end, to a mobile app. The reason that we send the emails is that instead of having the workflow be 100% AI driven, we have intervention points where a human can jump in, make a decision, yes or no, or ask for edits to the tweets. So the idea here is we will receive 5 tweets, 5 proposals of tweets. The AI agent will provide us 5 proposals for tweets for a given topic. We'll receive an email for those tweets, and we will decide if we want to accept it, in which case the AI would post a tweet for us using the Twitter API, or we can ask for edits, in which case it would regenerate proposals or changes or whatever, and send those to us, and then the flow will repeat itself. So we want a trigger that'll send the drafts to an email list, which is going to be ideally by a cron job, but since we, what you can do like daily tweets, fine, in a real practical use case. Steven, I see your question. I'll get to you in just a second. So because we don't want to sit around and wait for a cron, even if you put it like every 5 minutes or whatever, we'll just trigger it via post. But you can trigger it. You can trigger it any way you like. And then we will kind of see where the LLM falls short in failure and how we can overcome that failure by posting jobs or issuing commands. You know, this works really nice with like CQRS as well, except that you don't have like the event replay. So you got to figure out the database part. But you know, works really nice with event-driven microservices and workflows. So we'll publish the job to a topic and then listen to it on the queue side and then be able to process the LLM inside of there instead of directly in the post or directly as a result of the trigger to overcome the cases of failure. And then it's just like an implementation detail, kind of showing off at this point with what Les can do. But since we don't have a database or anything set up, Les does come with a DynamoDB KVS store. It only gives you the primary key right now. We'll be adding sort key later, but you have the primary key. I forget what it's called off the top of my head. You have basically the primary key, and then we'll save things to it with a TTL. So we'll just generate a UUID on the fly. When the proposals are created by the AI, we'll save those. When we send them via email, the links to approve will be based on the ID for the proposal, and then the index for the tweet that we're selecting. And so we can go fetch it via the ID inside of KVS and send the tweet. And then we don't have to worry about cleanup because we can use TTL in the key value store as well. Email content. So this is just a detail for we're sending emails. So what does it look like? So the proposal ID will be in the reply to address. I'll show you guys very briefly what this looks like from SendGrid. But essentially this will be the UUID that we generated, and so I can look at the reply to address as I'm listening to webhooks from SendGrid, which allows the user receiving the emails to just communicate with the AI via email, right? So I don't have to set up like a web client or anything like that. So this makes it, just very pragmatic approach to just having a short-lived ID that I can approve via the email, and not have to deal with like auth or anything like that. I think that covers just about everything. So handling email edit requests. So if there is a response to the thread, which I know because of the reply to address, then we'll ask the LLM to make changes for us, and it'll send the updated proposal to the user, and then the loop kind of repeats itself. So you guys let me know in the comments if you think I should diagram this out in Excalidraw, I think is how you pronounce it, or if we can just kind of hit the ground running and get straight to the implementation. Steven, step functions, orchestration workflows between LLM output in this case. Yes, so they're not really step functions, right? They're not really step functions, but I think you kind of get the point here, right? You have like different nodes, and then this can extend out. This is just computation. So what's the circle in this case? The circle in this case is just a lambda function, right? So the circle in this case is a lambda function, and if you look at this, outward boundary in this case, ignore this arrow. This outward boundary here is an SNS topic, right? And then it's connecting to via SQS. So this is where the fault tolerance comes in. If it fails, it just replays in the queue, and connecting via SQS to another node here, to another unit of computation, which is essentially, again, this is a lambda function, right? And then it's running the LLM inside of that. So where does human decision come into play, right? It's just another form of having a trigger. So these are topics and queues that are sending messages in the way that you're receiving messages. But where does a step function and decision boundary come in from the user perspective? You can do that via post request, for example, right? So, and let me diagram that for everybody. Let me know if this is making sense in the chat, guys. If you have any follow-up questions or anything like that, let me know as well. But so what does this look like? So I want to trigger a job. So I want to trigger something, which is this, right? I want to do it periodically. So I'll make this a cron. Let me get used to these shortcuts. I'll make this a cron, and then this cron is going to do something. What is that, right? It's going to do something, which is this, right? Unit of computation. The cron is going to do something. What's the cron going to do? It's going to generate tweets. It's going to generate tweets. Generate and email tweets. Right, and then what's happening inside is just the LLM doing some work. All right, let me be explicit because we're gonna have cases where it's not LLM. All right, so this is just an LLM doing some work, but it could have been anything. Okay, so I dispatch a cron, it generates the tweets, it emails them, right? So let me just make this arrow, and it's going somewhere, and it is an email. That's the email being sent. I don't know where it's being sent. I don't care at that point. But it has a link. It has a link to a URL, right? So the URL is going to look something like, right? So I have another trigger, and it's going to look something like, well, because it's just in the email, it's actually a get, and it'll be, I don't know, hello / name, right? And so clicking that link triggers, right? It's like an API gateway, is triggering another unit of work. And so what is this one doing? This one is checking the tweet that you approved. Let me do, don't mind the name too much, but like it'll just be like something like tweet ID, more or less. So we're gonna approve the tweet ID, and then this is just a lambda, right? And so what is it doing? It is it's a route. And when I approve the tweet, then I just have another, it's going to do something else, which is just, communicate with the Twitter API. Or I can say tweet via Twitter API. We'll also have a webhook. We'll also have a webhook from SendGrid that is watching our inbox, and so it can check if this route will check if we're asking for edits, and if we are, then it'll basically get out of my way. It'll basically go like this. Right, and then the process kind of repeats itself. All right, so going back to your question, Stephen, with the step function, yeah, it's very, very similar. Very, what it's solving, or what it allows you to solve, is essentially the same thing. You can create these workflows, you can wait for human interaction, or you can just connect them directly, like one process, one unit of work to the next unit of work. Like if you're doing like a very complex like checkout process for an e-commerce, then you can link all of these pieces together and orchestrate them pretty nicely. So let's jump into it. Again, if you have any questions, guys, just let me know. Drop them in the chat. All right. So let me show you guys real quick what I already have, and then we'll start flying right into the implementation. So there's a couple things I already have set up. I have SendGrid set up, very, very basic sending email. You can see, like, I already have all of this set up. So creating my account, blah, 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 creating an API key. I have my API key already set up. Node.js, having that installed, blah, 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 creating a project. And then where's the code? Here we go. So I'm just requiring SendGrid mail, setting the API key, and then I have a message that goes to, from, has a subject, has text for the text content, and HTML as well. And then I send the message. Right, it's that easy. So I'll get out of here, and then I have another thing called inbound parse. I'll show you guys the code for this. Code for this was a fucking mess for me with less, because I made a shit decision. And when you're dealing with a REST API, the request body is serialized as text. It's not a string. So yeah, it doesn't work with like plugins, like things like Express and things like that. So I do want to change that interface and make it compatible with more tools. But that was a shit decision, so I had to figure out how to parse the body myself. Yeah, just a bit of pretext. You live, you learn. So inbound parse, what it's doing is it allows me to set up, you see here, inbound parse webhook. So I had to set up my MX records and everything like that for my domain. And it'll watch my email inbox, and that allows me to look at the reply to address and check if it's a AI agent type of communication, or if it's just a regular email. In that case, we'll just ignore it. So those are the two things that I had set up ahead of time. We'll come into here, and you can see I have shared code. Because everything inside of less is an isolated Lambda function, you have to use shared modules to be able to have code shared between different things. So I can't import this directly, right? Because, you know, this is a Lambda. I can't reach out and import something from another Lambda. So what do I have here? So setting up SendGrid, I have my API keys in my .env already. Some checking to see if the variables are set up. And then I have a disable email flags to be able to test a little bit easier. If it's enabled, then we send. If we want emails being sent, then it'll be sent. If the flag to disable is on, then it'll just log the email instead. All right, nothing fancy here. This is something that you know, when we're getting our data, we'll format data from the LLM and send it via email and all that stuff. But this could be anything in your, you know, adapted to your use case. And then we have the SendGrid webhook. So we'll look at how this was created in a second when we create the other routes. But inside of Less, I have APIs, so I can have numerous APIs. In this case, I have a webhook API. So if I deploy this, or if I run this locally, it'll have its own URL. And then I have a route called SendGrid. And in this case, it's a post. Posting is using JavaScript. So I'm going to be doing JavaScript here. I didn't want to waste my time setting up, you know, TypeScript and building and watching and all that stuff. So I'm going to just keep it simple with JavaScript. You can do the same thing in TypeScript, but you have to set up your TypeScript dist and or build, or you could use Python as well. And you can actually use, you know, Python and JavaScript and whatever in the same language. So if you have like different workflows and different pieces, those black boxes, like the computational unit, if you want to use JavaScript, that's fine. If you want to use Python, that's fine. You can use both languages in the same project as well, is fine. If you have a message being publish to a topic and you want to have multiple subscribers, each subscriber can be a different language if you want. You can post from JavaScript and receive in Python as well, so you can kind of go nuts with that. I think you get the point. Oof, it's hot. All right. So, get boundary headers, and then we parse the form data. So we use a request, get the body, parse, and blah, 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 and it'll fetch out all the fields that we need. From the body, turn that into JSON, and then I set the request body, right? This is like a middleware, so set the request body to the result fields. So instead of body being this whole fucked up form representation, I get it as JSON inside of the route. And then if this is just a regex to say, you know, based on an email address, I check if it came from the prefix AI tweeter and then the UUID, and then I can pull the ID out of it to know which AI conversation I should be acting upon. A couple helpers there, and then so really the secret sauce of less is, so if you ignore all of this, if you ignore this, I have an API, it's a webhooks API, so this will give me a URL. I have a /SendGrid route and it's a post. So if I post the /SendGrid at whatever URL it generates, then it's gonna call this function, this process function. So I have a request and a response. I have my request body here, where I'm pulling out what SendGrid sends to me via the webhook. So the to address, from address, subject, and text of the email. The conversation ID for the LLM is going to be extracted from the to email. So based on the reply to email, I'll have something that looks sort of like this. So what's the regex say? AI tweeter. So I'll have something that looks kind of like this. AI tweeter plus 123 ABC, which is the ID, right? And then at shuva.io, right? So we're looking at this prefix to know if it came from a conversation, which we'll generate later, and then we're just pulling the ID out, and that allows us to go, you know, fetch that record and work with it. So if the ID is from a conversation, then we fall into here. Otherwise, if it's just AI at shuva.io, then we know that it's just a new AI conversation. Just kind of threw that as a kind of a contrast, and then we will return the response. SendGrid accepts something in the 200 range, so I'm sending a 204. If we are able to fall through all of this, I have the logs already set up so that you guys can follow along in case we do send emails. And then we send the 204 here as well. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, that's that. What did I change? Why is it asking me to save? That was just that. Okay, cool. Cool. Any questions, or shall I continue? Or are you bored? All right, let's keep it moving. So, create a function to communicate with the LLM. How do we do that? Just for context, I already have my keys set up, okay? But we're gonna go into OpenRouter. You can check out openrouter.ai. It has a ton of models. I forget what Google's new model, they just released it. Can I sort by date? Just released it like 2 days ago. And they're oh, this one, Gemma 3N. Yep, this is it. They just released this like 2 days ago. It's free. You have a bunch of free models here that you can take a look at. Vlad, thanks for joining, man. Appreciate you being here. So yeah, these are the models. Let's check out the docs. It's very, very straightforward. Yeah, so this is just like, you know, if you're using OpenAPI, import OpenAPI, set up the new blah, 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 and then do your chat thing, and then if you wanted to use like a different API, then you have to set this up all over again. So what this lets you do is just use OpenRouter, and you just pass what model that you want to use here as a parameter, and then the interface stays the same. So you can switch over these. You can use a different model for different cases. Like we might see here, depending on how much time we have. We might look at how different models perform for what we want to do specifically, which is generate tweets. Making small changes. You know, some models are shit. Some work pretty well. I couldn't get the new Google one to respect my formatting, for example. So yeah, let's do this. Let's get started. So I want to use, you can do like npx, there we go, let's CLI, and then we want to create a route. Okay. And you can pass all the parameters, or you can let it walk you through as well. So we need to set the name, the path, the language, and the verb, right? So the name of the API, we saw that we already have one called webhooks that we use for SendGrid. We're going to create a separate one just to isolate the base URL from webhooks from the rest of the application. So I have I want to say create route, and I'll just do it that way, and then it'll walk me through. So what's the name? Let's call this AI flow. Just call it AI. And then we want to create hold on. We don't even need that yet. Let's go straight to the helper. Let's go straight to the helper. We have send email already, and we'll create another one called chat or send message to LLM. Boom, there we go. All right. Okay. Send message to LLM. I already have my key, which you'll need to set up via your less config. You just need to expose, so kind of like, I don't know if you use like React and you have like React app, and then for the prefix for the keys, you want to kind of communicate to React which keys you want to use. Less works the same way, so it'll only load these keys into your environment. So OpenRouter API key is the name, okay? So bearer, and then this guy, process.env. All right, and then refer title, we don't need these right now. Application JSON. The model, I had a model, let me find the model that I was using. Here it is. All right. This is what worked best for me. This is the free one. This is what I'll be going with. Messages. So messages is, we'll just go like this. Oof. And then Copilot knows we need to export that. All right. And then this is message. All right. Send message to LLM. All right. I'm gonna say yes. So if the response is not okay, then there's an error. That's right. And then what do I want to do? Send message to LLM, and then I want to return the response. Data choices, length. I'm not sure if that's right. Let's look at this. Nope, this doesn't have much more information either. Chat, what is it called? Chat completions. Chat completions. Yes, so ID choices, message, assistant, content. So I should have the first piece of content. Let's see it one more time. So ID, I have choices. I have an array of choices, and then I have a message with content. I have, all right, so that's data's JSON, data choices length, that's right, and we throw, okay. And then content is data choices 0 message. Is it message? Data choices 0 message, yes. So that should be right, and then we can return content. Return content. All right, that looks right. Send message to LLM. Response, if it's not okay, error, and we get the data from it. If the data choices doesn't exist, it's an error. If there's not at least one response, it's an error, and then we return the content. All right, what's the next task? Create a function to send emails. I think I have that one already, right? Yeah, with the helper. Create a function to send AI tweet drafts to an email list. Okay, cool. So let's first create a route because we need a trigger, right? Let's did I draw this here? Yeah. So we want to trigger the LLM. It could be a cron, but instead of doing it via cron, let's do it via a post, just to make it faster for us to iterate on, since we're, we could do like TDD as well. But we want to look at the actual results. So I think even TDD here wouldn't be too helpful at this moment. So yeah, here we were creating a route, and we need a route to call this function. So we need a route that'll call the send message to LLM function. So the name of the route, let's call it AI once again. Here we want to just say, I'll say / mock job, trigger job, call it trigger. I'm thinking if I want to use post or get to make it easier, I can do I want to post or a get? It's triggered from a cron, so there's no parameters. So I'll do a get. Oh, I fucked it up. Or did it? Yeah, it did. More shit work. So that should not be a problem, but it is. It captured the quotes here. Yeah, should I just delete it and try again? There we go. All right, so APIs, I have an AI API, and then I have /trigger, which is a get. So I can do a get to /trigger, and then the code is here. Okay, and then the response should be hello world. So let's do two things here. So we saw that we can use npx to communicate with the LSCLI, although I already have it installed. So I'll just use it this way, and then I want to say let's CLI build, and then the name of my app, so AI demo, and then I also want to let's CLI run my AI demo. So we'll do that in 2 steps to make it faster. If we had all the time in the world, I'd create use NodeMon to watch for changes and things like that, or I'd even set up TypeScript and watch for changes, update the dist, and then build and run automatically based on the dist changing as well. It's a workflow that is pretty nice for me. Gamer Senjeki, thank you for joining us. So basically we're using OpenRouter API to get an LLM of choice so we can send prompts to our local LLM. Let me read that one more time. Basically we're using OpenRouter API to get an LLM of choice so we can send prompts to our local LLM. I wouldn't call it local LLM. It's not a local LLM. You're still using the API. Now we can test it locally. We don't have to deploy it. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but yeah, we're gonna be testing and building locally, and then we'll be we can deploy this towards the end. Let me know if that answers your question. All right, so I did the build, I did the run, and so we can see here I have a list of APIs. So I have the webhook one, and then I have the AI guy. So let me copy this, and we said it's a get, right? So I should be able to say, curl this, right? What is it? Trigger? Yeah, trigger. There we go. All right. So doing a get to this guy ends up giving me hello world, right? Which is what we wanted. We can add a log here. Received request. Okay, cool. And then you gotta kill that and run it again. All right, and then we can run that one more time. All right, and then we get our logs here. Cool. Oh, why did I stop it? We gotta make changes anyway, so there's nothing interesting there. Back to our task. What are we trying to do now? So we have a function to communicate with LLM. We have a function to send emails. We want to be able to trigger job to send 5 tweet drafts to an email list. Okay, so what does that mean? We already have send message to LLM, which is in shared helpers, right? So I want to const this thing equals require, and it's not quite that, it is this. You can just reference it like a package name. All right, and then so I receive the request. Let me get rid of that, and then send message to LLM. What would the message be? Let me hard code that here. How do I want to hard code? Let me do like AI prompt. Yes, gamer Senjeki. Yes, we are testing locally. Yes. AI prompt. So, you are a helpful assistant. Your task is to help the blah, 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 blah. No. All right. What do you want to do? Yeah, cool. You're a helpful assistant. Your task is to help the user post tweets. I can't spell. Post tweets to Twitter. Generate 5 tweets. They say AIs are not creative, so generate 5 creative tweets. Oh, it's probably gonna blow up. Generate 5 creative tweets. You're a helpful AI assistant. Generate 5 creative tweets. Okay, cool. And then const result equals await send message to LLM AI prompt, and then the response body will be the result, right? And let's see how that behaves. Let me also console log it. I'm not sure which what do you call it? Not sure which output will look better. And we can stringify it too if we need to. Oh, it's already a string. We'll have to stringify it later. Cool. Let's run that, and let's see how it behaves. Did it run? Yeah. Oh, I should have added better logging. Okay. I wasn't sure if it worked or not. LLM response. I'd be happy to help you with some tweets. Here are 5 options. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very cool. All right. But how do I format that as HTML? How do I get like an array of tweets that I can loop over, compose an email with the proposal as I want it structured? Why do I want it structured that way? Because I want to be able to approve a specific tweet. And I don't trust the AI to be able to say, oh yeah, so post the third one, right? Because what if it understands that wrong, and then I have a huge problem because the wrong tweet was posted. I don't want to be prone to that sort of error. So what I want to do is take these results, store them in a more machine readable way, so as JSON, save it somewhere, and then send it to the user and let them make a decision, so that at that point, what you see is what you get, right? So if user says approve tweet number 2, we know deterministically that it is specifically the tweet that they saw, right? So we're not gonna let the AI send the email. So you can use like an MCP server and do all that fun stuff and say, hey AI, do your thing, and let it do its thing. What I want to show you guys is where you can kind of, I think that's kind of the easy way, right? So we want to kind of break that chain and add human intervention, or perhaps you're waiting for a user to make a post on a form on your web app, or things of that nature. You were listening to a webhook. So there are a multitude of ways that you can intervene and make decisions. So the first order of business here. So just being a little bit more specific. So let's look at this just as a refresher, and for those of you that are now joining, we want to include a link to approve the tweet, right? And so what we want is that when the tweet is generated, when the results are generated, we're going to validate them. If they are valid, we'll send them to the user via ID, which would be this ID, right? The proposal ID. And then the proposal number is the number of the tweet. So if we wanted to accept the tweet that says morning motivation, good morning sunshine, then we would pass index 0 here, right? So for all of that, we need an array. We need JSON. Mr. Gamer, you could create a list and append each time until the function finishes tasks like a condition, since it's async. You use send an email to the user. Let me read that one more time. Create a list, append each time until the function. I believe so. The way, let me look at this function and see how it works. We can dive into get more into the weeds. But here, send message to LLM response, right? The response is just the first. It's just the first response to the LLM. I haven't seen examples. I've been playing with these for a little, not too long now, but I haven't seen any examples where you have subsequent responses from the AI. It's just like prompt response. And so I think with what you're saying, I would stream. You're asking if I could stream the results from the AI and then make decisions based on that. With the interface that we're currently working with, no. However, I would not be surprised if I can configure this. Yes, here we go. So enable streaming of results. So I have a Boolean here that I can just set. By default it's false. So if I want to stream, I would set it to true, and then we'd have to figure out what that looks like for a response. Bearer token. Yeah, I think we'll leave that as a task for maybe another time. Or so you could segment the text like a trim with spaces after that. You can segment the text like a trim. Yes, but you know, what if the tweet is more than one sentence, for example? How do you know that's the you're saying like the dot is the delimiter for each tweet? I'm not sure if I'm understanding that right. But something cool that they do is, see if I can find it. Usage, reasoning, provider, messages. This is the post for the completion. They allow you to specify the format for the response. Messages, provider, configuration. I don't think it's here, no. Usage, whether your usage, no. Numbers seed, frequency. Let me check my notes here. But it is possible. Model reasoning, messages, and response format. There should be a response format. I don't see it. I'm not seeing it here. Anyways, let me go back. We'll do it the shitty way, and then we'll make it better. Let me see. What are you saying, gamer? Since you asked for 5 tweets, it's numbered 1, 2. We check it like number dot, but that would only check in case you asked for something like this prompt. Yeah, you could. So that wouldn't work for another type of prompt. Correct. So something that you're gonna see that's pretty cool is that you can give it a JSON schema, and it will respect your JSON schema in your response. In theory, in practice, it is flaky. I've had issues with it, but it is helpful. So let me show you how we can. Let me show you one approach. Then we'll make an update and show another approach. So I think this is kind of like the old school way that folks have been doing this. It's just doing something like this. Do not include, no, that's not what. So do not include, let me say it like this actually. Requirements. Format the tweets as an array of strings. And then I want to go like this. Fuck off. All right. Yeah, there we go. Example. There we go. Perfect. Format the tweets as an array of strings. Do not include any text in the response other than the array of tweets. There we go. Yeah. Let's see how that works. Right? And then something that I want to do is get the result, and then say, this is how I like to use AI. So check if the result is an array. Yeah, perfect. Check if the result is an array. If it's not an array, then the LLM response is not an array, and then we can see what the result actually is in the console error, and then we'll throw an error. Do we want to throw an error in a GET request? No. So I'll say like response. Actually, throwing an error in this case doesn't matter because it's just a trigger, right? So it should be a cron job. How do we deal with the failure? We're gonna move this and make it so that it never fails. So for right now, we'll just let it throw. It'll be a shitty 500 or like 501 or something. Who knows? But we'll let that be. So if the result is an array, which it wouldn't be, right? Because it's a string. So let me say parsed. So parsed response is going to be JSON parse. Cool. Okay. And then if the parsed response is not an array, then that's an issue, and we'll print the result before we parse it. Otherwise, yeah, we'll continue to log the result. Yeah, that's good enough. Console log the response. Let me not do that. Let me say console log. The format is valid. Keep it simple. All right. Gamer, so I think I got your question for wanting to split the list based on the number and the dot, so you can do like regex. But then as you corrected yourself, I believe that that wouldn't work for other types of prompts. What do you need like a key for the list since the list need a key for the list since the list of strings is a value? I'm not following there. Mr. Gamer, I'm not following. Oh, I'm waiting for the response and I never sent it. There we go. The format is valid. Woohoo! Oh yeah, look, I got fucking Japanese. You see why? You see why? I don't know if it's Japanese. Mr. Gamer, you see why I can't use the delimiter? Like I don't know where this came from. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like to me, it's to me with dealing with the AI, it's all about just embracing the error. The shit sucks all the time, right? So imagine if we say, "Hey AI, generate 5 tweets," and like you can, I think this totally makes sense. It seems counterintuitive, but I can say, "Hey AI, generate some tweets." Okay, cool, and send them off. Just dispatch an event that's like tweet proposals generated, right? And then you can have another AI pick up those tweets before you receive the email, or maybe remove the human element. You can have another LLM that is checking those tweets and making sure that it's in English and making sure that there's no, grammatical errors or typos, right? Why separate it into a separate AI? Just do it in the first one. Well, the more prompts you give it, the shit it reaches a tipping point where the more context you give it, the better, and then it gets to a point where it just kind of falls off and has no fucking idea what it should do, and it starts like to hallucinate and give you really shit results. So this is like if we let it do its own thing and trust it, we're just gonna get into issues. Steven, what would be very nice? What like I propose it like sending the message to the next one in the chain. I agree. I agree. The only issue is, you know, I mean, that could totally work. And I mean, again, it's all about confidence. So I think having the human there just gives you more confidence. But I mean, we can pivot, Steven, and just let it be just LLMs talking to LLMs and just go fucking nuts. So, yeah, let's do that. So this is really cool, right? This is really good progress. So the format is valid. Okay. So let's see. Let's kind of battle test this a little bit and see what happens. Okay, so format's not valid. Error on app execution. Syntax error expected. Whatever at JSON position. Right. So the JSON is shit this time. Right. So let's try it again. And what's the threshold? Right. So 2 out of 3 are failures at this point. Fucking another one. Okay, boom. So that one worked. So we're 50-50 at this point. You know what I mean? Like, it's not reasonable. And then, so let's look at what we actually got. So, explore new horizons and watch your dreams soar. Laughter is the best medicine. Share yours with the world. Okay, cool. So, these tweets kind of suck, right? I want to brag about less. Like, I want to tweet about less and show you guys what it's all about. And so, I want to give it more context, right? This is just totally random tweets. So let's do that. How do we do that? So I'm gonna go like this. Fetch data as HTML from fetch data as HTML. Okay, and then there we go. But no. So await fetch from, then there we go, HTML text, HTML data. Cool. All right, and then we're gonna fetch from last.juva.io. All right, so we're gonna fetch. Let me be more specific in case this changes. Like technically, it's docs, right? So we're gonna fetch the docs. It's a static page, so we should get all the results we need. And then we're gonna use the HTML text, and then we have our AI prompt, and then let's say like const AI prompt with context. All right, so here's the AI prompt. So your helpful assistant, your task is to help the user post tweets to Twitter, generate 5 creative tweets about less. Documentation is available. The tweet should be engaging. Let me see, let me cut this off. I don't know why this is cutting off automatically. Create 5 creative tweets about less. Documentation is available here. The tweet should be engaging, informative, and relevant to the less framework. Each tweet should be concise and written with a character limit of 280. I think that's their character limit. Again, I wouldn't trust it. I would validate this. You know, once the parse works, JSON parse works, then maybe I'm checking each one to make sure that it's valid. In terms of character length, each tweet should be blah 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 blah. The HTML for the page is provided in the context. Cool. All right. So requirements, those are the requirements, and then I'm fetching this dynamically. I should probably hard code this. Maybe I get good usage in fucking Google Analytics, right? I can say like I had 100 visitors, but it was the AI. So AI prompt with context, and then here I'll just substitute here. So AI prompt. I think I can even go like this. It'll be fine. Like I can do like backslash delimiter and then backslash, and then say also like HTML. And let's do that. Okay, beautiful. All right. So let's see if our prompts got better. Nope. Hold on. All right. Oh, cool. I did not expect that to work. All right. So less automates cloud infrastructure so you can focus on your business. Say goodbye to complex cloud infrastructure with less. Less where simplicity meets control. Automate your cloud infra with blah, 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 blah. I should read all of them. Maybe I should do more examples so I can convince you guys. Do like 30 proposals instead, and we'll read them one by one. All right, cool. Another format is valid. Let's see how lucky we are. All right, format is valid. Let's try again. Oh, wow. It got much better. Yeah, that worked again. So helpful assistant, blah, 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 5 tweets, and then we added this. Not much changed, right? I'm still asking for 5. So I don't know why it got better, but it did. That's cool. I think it makes me a better programmer. It's like, if it's code, it's like, if it works, if it doesn't work, you're like, why isn't it working? Where's the bug? Why isn't it working? And then all of a sudden it works, and you're like, why is it working? Why is it working now? Like, I didn't change anything. I just reset the cache. So then you go reproduce everything, resetting the cache every time, so you can figure out why it worked. AI never works. So when it works, just like, if it works, we'll roll with it. All right, cool. So here, if it's an array and a parse response, but it should also give me 5 results. So maybe I want to check for that as well. But let's take it to the next level. So what do we want to do now? Let's look at the tasks. So create a function, communicate with the LLM, use a function to send emails. This is the docs. Send the tweet drafts to an email list. This is our trigger. We already have our trigger, and then we want to post it to PubSub. Save proposed KVS with a TTL of 24 hours. Okay. Okay. What's the next step we're going to take here then? What is the next step we want to take here? Do we create a topic? Steven, you want to create a topic? I wanted it to fail and then save the day and be like, see, it doesn't fail now because we created a topic. But now it's working and now I'm mad. Yeah, the format is valid again. Maybe my if else is wrong and it always says it's valid. I'm just kidding. All right, cool. Let's do this. Let's go get Google's new model. Sort by date. And let's see how Google does. All right. Where is it? We had a helper, right? Yeah, this is the helper. This is the model. We'll fall back on that in case things don't work out. And then let's try that. Nothing against Google, but I hope it fails. It's slower, it seems. Yeah, I think it's slower. Not valid JSON. Okay, so this one failed, and we'll flip flop back and forth and use different models. So now that we have failure, I hope it's consistent. Let me run one more, and we won't wait for it. All right. So let's keep it moving. So I want to. The whole point was to trigger a job that generates tweets, right? Trigger a job that generates tweets. Now it can be triggered via cron. It can be triggered via get as we have it now, right? So what's the job that we want to execute? Generate tweets, right? So I'm going to use less. I'll do it right here in this window. And we're going to say less CLI create, but instead of a route, it's going to be a topic. Actually, because I don't want it empty, let me say subscriber. Subscriber. Subscribers. Okay, cool. Enter a list of subscribers. Welcome, send welcome email. So I'm gonna call this just because it's a command. So I like to think about it as two ways. Like it's you have an event and then you have the processor, or you have a command. So a command is always gonna have only just a single process. If it's an event, you might have multiple. So because the name of the processor is gonna just be process because it's processing a command, I'll call this process. Okay. And then the name of the topic. So it's not an event, it's a command, right? So I'm going to call it generate tweets. Generate tweets. Proposals. Generate tweet. What the fuck? Generate. All right, whatever. Generate tweets and JS. What's wrong here? Names for each. Answers names for each. Let me go like this. Topics. Help. Topic. So the name is going to be generate tweets. The language is going to be JS. The subscribers is going to be named process. I think that's it. There we go. All right. right? And so what do I want to do here? I want to, Mr. Game, are you out of here? Thank you, man, for joining. I know you might not be seeing, but if you are here, appreciate you. Um, so let's look at the less docs real quick. Again, I'm not presenting less so much. I just want to show you guys the building blocks, but do take the time and look at it if you enjoy this. So create topic subscribers. We've done that already. Send messages using the SDK. So in Node.js, this is how I send a message. Um, where am I sending the message from? So here, the GET request is going to trigger it. Okay, we can set up a cron as well to trigger it. So topic, those are my topics, and then I want to publish a message. And so here I will say, generate tweets. It has the context, it has the HTML, it has the results, and then if it's valid, we have a log, and then we return the response. So we don't need any of that. And then the name of the topic in this case is not user created. It is generate what? Generate tweets. Generate tweets. And what message do we want to publish? Well, in this case, as a cron would work, right? There's no context for it, right? It just runs on a schedule. So I don't want to send it any context here. And then I have my process function, right? So what do we want to happen inside of here? Well, just to make it clear what's happening, let me see, what did I change? I published the message. Okay, so if the tweet is valid, we're gonna publish the message to the topic that we just created, and then here it'll just log. Okay, just so we can take it one step at a time. It's Google and it's slow. All right, that failed. Let me do this. Instead of communicating with a prompt, or we can also just do this. Let me copy all this. Right. And we will simply publish. And I don't think we even need to return because it'll just default. Cool. So here, processing message, we'll leave that for now. And then we'll post all of this. And then we need this stuff. So we'll move that back here. All right. And I think that should do it, right? Yeah. All right. To me, this is like the huge thing. This is like the biggest thing with less for me. Because again, these are running in Lambda functions. So like if a machine goes down or something like that, like you just never have that as an issue, right? And so right now with publishing, we're publishing to an SNS queue, which is then sending it to an SQS topic. I'm sorry, I fucked that up. SNS topic that is sending it to an SQS queue. So if it does fail, right? If this does fail, because we're throwing, right? It needs to terminate gracefully. So if we throw, the message processing will fail, and so Less will automatically replay that and try again later, or AWS technically, right? So let me send this trigger. Let me clean up. Let me send this trigger. Oh no! Cannot read properties of undefined reading publish. Topics generate. What did I do? Oh, this is not right. Topics. I knew my terminal was working weird. No, that's not right either. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, that's right. So inside of less, right, we saw API, we saw shared. Inside of less, I have topics. I can have multiple topics. In this case, generate tweet, which is this one, generate tweets. And then it has a function that it'll execute, which is the subscriber. So when I publish a message here, the process function will receive it, and then it'll just execute this code, right? So it receives the message. So when it requests request response, here it's just a message, and it'll execute this code. I could have like generate tweets process. I could have generate tweets foo, generate tweets bar, and they'll all execute in parallel from the single message that was published, right? So you can have one message and multiple consumers. What was the issue? I had the wrong name, so it should work now. Cool. And then let's run it again. So processing message undefined, right? Because we didn't publish anything. So the actual contents is undefined. And so we're inside of here now, right? So this published it and we received it here. And we're doing all the same work that we were doing before, right? So not valid JSON, it failed. Oh shit. Let's get like, this is an implementation issue. Generate tweets processor, message has been stored for later processing, unexpected token, not valid JSON. I think that might be why. There's just an offline mode issue, looks like. Because even though it failed, it should have placed it in a queue instead of crashing. So it crashed the local server, which should not happen. So that's a bug. Not valid JSON. Let's go back to the helpers and let's go back to the model that was working better. Right, so we'll see here, it's processing the message again. I killed the server, restarted, and it's processing the message again. Oh, in this case, it said the format is valid, so this time it worked. So we saw that we had a failure, it replayed, retried, and then worked, even though we killed the server and came back. So let me send another one. All right, so we're processing another one, and it's valid, so that time it worked. Oops. Oh, I didn't give a response here. So I think I do need to get a response. So cool. And I don't think I had anything pending. No. So let me send a new message. All right, valid. Let me send another one. All right, let me send like a few. And so these are all running in parallel, right? They're all valid. These are, I'm gonna get rate limited. These are all running in parallel. All right, so we found one that failed. All right, so see, it got replayed here. And it failed again, and it's getting replayed again. All right, and now it succeeded. So after one failure, right? So we had a failure and then it had 2 retries. So after the second retry, it worked successfully, right? So this helps us to guarantee that, you know, we can kind of exit from here or exit from a cron and not be tied to the failure here with having a user have to retry, or in case of a cron, you failed and you just have to deal with that for the day, in the case of a daily cron, for example. And so here, let me go like this. Let me log the response here. Not an array, invalid. So here the format is valid, and then I'll log the response. So it's a parse response. Cool. Or actually just the result. Not parse. So the result as a string. Logging the result as a string, but then let's say I want to create a new topic, and I'll just copy this guy, make it super easy, and then I'll paste here. Right, so I have a generate tweets copy. I don't want generate tweets copy. I want, let's say, make it fun. Right, make what fun. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna create, so we have it copied. We're gonna create a new prompt and say you are a helpful assistant. You are a fun, helpful assistant. Your task is to make the tweets proposed by the junior marketer. Your task is to make the tweets proposed by the junior marketer more fun by adding relevant emojis. Use the tweets provided in the context to update the tweets below and make them just that, update the tweets below. So requirements, format the tweets, do not include any text other than blah, 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 blah. Yeah, we'll keep that. Processing, let me say, making tweets fun. And then we don't need this. Send message to LLM, just the prompt here. Parse response, check once again if it's an array, and if it is, the format is valid, and then go back here, format is valid, and we will log that. Oh, I'm already logging that, so format is valid, we'll log that, and call it a day in this case. But for that to happen, when it is valid, then we need to publish it again, don't we? So if it is valid, we will publish. If it is valid, we will publish the result, which are the tweets. So we will publish this to make it fun. Make it fun. All right. And then make it fun, we'll receive it, has another AI prompt, and then it'll make the tweets fun and log the results. We'll go from boring tweets to fun tweets. And let's see how that works. All right. Processing message. So if this works, it'll publish it again. Well, it failed. All right, so it'll try again. Okay, so the first one worked. Cool, format is valid. Make it fun was successfully processed. That seems incorrect to me. So let's see what happened. So we triggered the job. We were processing the first message, which is empty to begin with, right? but it failed. So we tried again here, and we see that the format is valid, and here is the output for the tweet, which means we will publish to the next processor in the flow, which is make it fun. However, so the format is valid. The processor processed from topic make it fun was successfully processed. That is odd to me because it should have said making tweets fun. So something's off. Make it fun process index. LM response is not an array. The format is valid. Right, I don't see making tweets fun anywhere. Processing message. So here I publish to make it fun. And then in make it fun, we're making tweets fun. That's odd. What am I missing here? Generate tweets publishes to make it fun. Oh, there it goes. I'm not sure why the first one didn't log. So obviously it's working kind of weird, right? So format is valid, discover the power of less, automating your cloud infrastructure, forget about cloud, DevOps, and more. And then it has a link to the docs. Okay, cool. It processed it successfully. Oh, okay. I was finding it to be a little bit short. So here's making tweets fun, which is the second one. And then in the end, it says the format is valid. It says the format is valid. And I think what I did wrong here is I have the AI prompt. Yeah, but I don't append the message. So send message to LLM AI prompt. I'll just copy this one. So it's AI prompt with context, and the context kind of sloppy copy paste, but AI prompt with context, and then it's gonna be the AI prompt plus the message. I don't need that. All right, AI prompt. Yeah. All right. But I think you guys get the point here. So this will this should work as intended, but it's just a matter of the AI at this point. All right, so publish the first one. Oh no! I don't want to run twice. There we go. So we processed the GET request. We sent it to the first LLM. Processing message. Processor process from generate tweets was successful. The format is valid. Discover the power of less with all of our emojis. So I think we kind of get the point here, right? So we have a trigger. In our case, our trigger is a GET request, but it could have been a cron job. And then the idea is that it sends an email. However, we jumped over this, and what we did instead is this goes to another LLM, which is make it fun, right? And then now that it's fun, we can email it, right? Basically, right? Now that it's fun, we can send the email. Right? So, just like the trigger is this in this case, the trigger could have been a post request, and then you can chain these as far as you want. So, in the case of failure, we have streams that let you handle failing messages as well. We have cron jobs. So if you wanted to create a cron job, you just need to have a crons folder inside of less. And in this case, you can call it like generate daily tweets. similar to the topics. It's just exports a process function. You know, REST APIs have request response. Topics have messages, but crons are just running on your schedule, so there's nothing to pass. And then you establish your cron schedule this way. And remember to add the environment variable to your config. We have other things like WebSockets that you can use to, if you want to do like a conversational front end client to chat with an LLM, you can, right now the get isn't sending anything, but it could send a message in query param, or we could post the message in the body um, and then show the user feedback here. So for example, in here, um, one of the first things that we could do here is like socket. So await socket, and we'll call it like, let's say it's like our AI socket, and then publish, right? And we can send the message here. So we can structure this with like an event, and a payload, and let your front end update like spinners and things like that, depending on depending on the event. So yeah, it's I think the big strength here is really the topics and subscribers, because it lets you draw this out really easily. And then if the trigger, if coming in is a cron or a pose or a message from a socket that the connected client is sending or whatever, and then going out, you can publish messages to other topics, you can send messages to sockets, you can communicate with the outside world via APIs and things like that. And then go full circle again, like you can process a form that a user on a web client is posting, et cetera, et cetera. So I hope you guys can see the power that this brings. We're hitting, we've been here about an hour and 40 minutes now. I think we can call it a day, unless there's anything specifically that you'd like to see for anyone that's still online. So if you have any questions, any comments, any suggestions, anything that you'd like to see next time, let me know. I'll give it a minute for any final words. But yeah, I hope this was helpful. I hope you find it insightful. Do check out the OpenRouter API. It's super easy to use, super useful. Together AI is one that I wanted to try to take a look at today, and generate images. So something that we could have added to this flow is, once the user approves the tweets because they look pretty, then it can go to another model where we would go through another process of, the LLM proposing different images to be used with the accepted tweet, and we can loop around on that and wait for, and wait until we approve it, and then the LLM could send the image plus the tweet content to Twitter. Um, so yeah, that's Together AI. I haven't tried this one yet, so I'm not sure how it works. Saw a little bit of SendGrid and how that could help us. The idea is that inside of the webhook for SendGrid, we would listen to the ID for the conversation and allow users, instead of having to create a website for their conversation with the AI, you can have specialized AI agents that just communicate with you via email. So I think kind of pointless in having like, for internal tools, or if you're just like a one-man show and trying to make your life a little bit easier, this is a great way for you to set up your own workflows instead of you know wasting time with making it pretty with UI. Like, just talk to it via email. I think is good enough. I think if you have a short TTL for the message, to make sure that someone in the outside world is not like, you should have rate limiting on your API anyways, so people are not like looping through and trying to guess the keys. It's a UUID anyway, so I don't really see where the harm could come from in that. Um, and we didn't look at deploying, but if you did want to deploy this, Let's makes that super easy as well. You're pretty literally just like Let's CLI deploy, and we're calling it what AI? It's my get request isn't sending me anything. Otherwise, I could do. Yeah, maybe it's something for another day. But yeah, I could deploy that just like that. Here what we saw was you build and run. It'll give me the URLs in my case that I have the websocket, the webhook one, and I have the regular one for the AI. Yeah, so here I have another one that's topics. The reason for that is that I don't have to use topics internally. If you look at the topics docs here, what we did was send it via the SDK, but you could also send it via REST API. So you could just post a message here, right? So you could post a message here. Um, you look at the docs, but it's essentially going to be just like slash generate tweets, which is the topic, slash generate tweets, or I could post a message to slash make it fun, right? Instead of publishing it using the SDK. So yeah, this is the first time we're deploying this project. So the first one takes a little bit longer. It might take like, I don't know, 3 minutes, 5 minutes tops, something like that. After that, it deploys a lot faster. So the result of this deployment is going to be essentially the same as this, just that it'll be real URLs instead of localhost. But all of this, you can literally just deploy it like that and have everything that we just looked at. Yeah, guys, I am going to call it a day. Very, very, very much appreciate everyone that joined. You know, you can look forward to more of these. So if you enjoyed this, do look out, and I'll be doing more of these. Subscribe, leave a comment. All that. You guys watch YouTube, so all that stuff that helps. Not sure what it helps with, but like engagement and everything and all that is fun. And maybe YouTube can pay me one day. Who knows? So yeah, do all that stuff that all the guys that you watch tell you to do. Like, subscribe, blah blah blah. Send it to a friend, etc., etc. If you have anything in mind that you'd like to see in another session, let me know. If you'd like to, I'd love to dive deeper into less and show you guys kind of like all the features. I'm kind of long-winded. I talk a lot, I know. Just a lot to show. So this is my second time doing live stream. I hope to get better, more organized as we go. As I'm saying this, you guys can see now that the deployment was successful. So I'm not lying to you. This is all this was deployed to AWS. In the case of these APIs, what you're looking at here is API gateway for your REST APIs, and then your topics, like I said, is SNS, SQS, Lambda functions, and all that fun stuff. So yeah, I hope to, I feel moderately organized. I don't want to like overdo it and do it like step by step and polish the videos and all that stuff. Maybe I can get more refined as time goes. I hope you guys didn't find this like disorganized. Kind of like winging it, doing it live, seeing where things go, and going off on different tangents that I think are relevant. As you guys are leaving comments as well, I try to engage and address what it is that what you guys are commenting. So thanks again. See you guys. Until next time.